Steve Dotto here. How the heck you doing this fine day? And welcome to Webinar Wednesday number 193. April, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Wednesday, friends. How is everybody?
How is everybody indeed? So I looked up again. I think I might have done this a couple months ago. I seem to recall doing it, but I don't remember what the numbers were. I looked up how many we've this 193rd Webinar Wednesday today.
Yep.
Do you know when we started? Do you know what started next year in January? It will be our 6th anniversary. We've done it for 5 full years. Yeah. We've done it average about, I guess, 40 a year for 5 years.
Wow.
Which just sounds about right. We take about 10 or 12 off a year. Sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And do you know what? I saw a post on Facebook. The average marriage runs 8 years. We're almost there.
Yeah, yeah. we're definitely out of the honeymoon phase.
For sure. So funny. So funny.
So how is everybody now? Your office doesn't look anything like the rest of your house, because you were zooming with me earlier today, and your house looks like a winter wonderland. It looks all Christmassy with decorations all over, but you don't do it in the office.
No, it's funny because Wyatt told we have an extra tree, and he told me that I should put it in here. I don't know. I'm usually very Christmassy, but I'm not as Christmassy this year.
That's
I'm not
because
feeling
she's in a little bit of mourning because one of her kids is not going to be home for Christmas, so it's all super sad at the
It
April
is, but we can't talk about that because I will cry.
Okay.
Start crying. It doesn't take much for you to start talking about Lucas and crying. I was in a conversation the other day, and somebody was like, "How's Lucas?" I was like, "He's good." And they went on, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't mean to make you sad." I'm like,
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to be talking about our month of madness, which was November here at DottoTech, and for the month of November, starting in October, I guess we started in October. We did 5 straight weeks live streaming every workday with one day. We took Remembrance Day off as we built a community teaching how to build an online business, and it was a real when you're in the middle of it, you don't really. It kind of becomes all encompassing. It was and when you come out at the other end, you're a little bit shell shocked, but we learned a lot, and it was. I think I don't know if we could have done this a few years ago with the technology was. Would kind of, I think it might have let us down. I got to tell you guys, technology wise, this thing was a walk in the park, wasn't it?
You know what? It was, but I do. So when we did the pop-up group, though, almost 2 years ago for B School, we did lives every day, and we did have some technology issues. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, we used Facebook Live, right?
Yeah, we were in the native app. We would go right in the native app. So this time we used StreamYard in this particular case, and it I'll fill you in a later bit, but it turned out just tickety boo as far as the technology goes. It was a bit of a walk in the park. There were other things. It's a lot of work doing 25 straight live streams. You end up, and it wasn't so much doing the live streams themselves, but on days where we had another event, where we had a Webinar Wednesday or something like that, it was I was kind of struggling on those days. I found it to be a lot.
Well, and I think by the end, we're always behind in the green room when we first start. So, we usually have like a little chit chat or whatever. And I think by the end, we just logged in and didn't talk to each other. And it would be like, we're going live.
Yeah. Well, look what Andy said. Andy says that he missed out on the 25-day program because he was scared away by the 25-day commitment. What an interesting comment. And that's, I was worried about that. Andy, I did worry about that we asked people to do it. It's a heavy lift. But I think anybody that was in it will validate that the amount of content that we delivered over those 25 days was a massive amount of content. Well, I won't steal the march from the video, because I talk about the purposes and what our goals and objectives were in the video. But I certainly respect the fact that it is. And next time we do it, I don't think we're going to do 25 days. I think we can deliver the same value in a more compressed, in a condensed time frame. But there wasn't that much fluff. There wasn't too much fluff. It was pretty intense going through it all, and I'm sure that the people who were here that were there will validate that. So here's the deal today. We have a typical pre-recorded video. I have got I think it's about 20 minutes or so, 21 minutes, where I walk through the entire. It's a lot about the business side of what we learned from going live for 25 days. As I say, we will talk about the technology, but the technology was pretty vanilla when at the end of the day. But the delivery mechanisms all worked. I guess it's talking about the maturation of the entire space. We can take some encouragement from that. But before we jump into today's video, I do want to do a quick shout out to those of you who make Dotto to make Webinar Wednesday possible. And that, of course, is our patrons. The DottoTech is a community funded channel. Webinar Wednesday is a community funded property. This is our 193rd of these webinars, and we managed to do them and deliver them for free each week because of the support of our unbelievably generous community at Patreon. Our patrons jump on and say, we value the content that you, Steve and April, are producing, so we would like to give you a little financial support. And in return, we offer back some extra perks, including half price on all of our courses, which many people are taking advantage of now that we've launched our new Evernote Made Easy course. So if you do value what we deliver here, I encourage you to head over to patreon.com/DottoTech and take a look at what's involved in supporting us at Patreon. The biggest perk that we deliver is you get access to the Webinar Wednesday archives, 193 and growing, the number of webinars, because you can view this webinar for free today and for the rest of the week, but then next week we archive it. And it's just for our patrons at that point there. And so we've got this incredible now back catalog of 193 of these webinars that you can peruse at your pleasure when you need some support on anything relating to content creation or a little bit on online marketing and a lot on productivity. So thank you one and all to our patrons for your support. We would not be here without you. And with that, let's jump in. Let's get into today's video. Are you looking forward to it, April? You looking forward to reliving the 25 days?
I am. I'm interested in hearing your perspective on it.
This is kind of like vacation photos. We've come back from our vacation, and now we're looking at the vacation photos from our 25 days sojourn. So, except it wasn't a like vacation for us. All right, let's have a look. We'll see you guys on the other side of the video. What an experience live streaming for 25 straight days was. It was more than I anticipated, but learned a lot of really good lessons. So let's dive into things. And we're going to start with talking about, first of all, why did we choose to do a live stream for 25 days? And it wasn't because I wanted to do a marathon, but it was all related to the marketing opportunity and to the business side. We really wanted to engender as much engagement as we could from the community that we were reaching out to. So the goals that we had for this project was we were looking to bring people into our Grey Wave membership, ultimately to bring people into our membership community. Now, the people who join that community are typically Gen Xers and baby boomers who are looking to pivot or build an online business. Some of them have already started building an online business, and other ones are just transitioning into that phase. And so we were looking for the best way. We were opening the doors for new members to come in, and we were looking for the best ways to bring them in. And there was a lot of marketing challenges that we faced with this particular group and with this particular offering. One thing that we had learned from our earlier efforts to bring people into the Grey Wave and from the earlier cohorts that had enrolled is that we had a kind of an uneven representation, and as far as the amount of experience people had in online business and knowing what they were getting into, especially joining a group that's as intense and as focused as the Grey Wave. So we had some people that were well on the path and understood exactly what an online business was and what they wanted to do, and were looking for good ways to get there. And there were other people that were still in the discovery process, just trying to figure out exactly what online business is and how it works, and to see if they could actually fit there. And so consequently, we were bringing a lot of people up and kind of educating them about the basics of online business, while other ones were looking for real strategies and really looking to kind of hit the ground running. So we had a little bit of a disconnect, and we struggled internally ourselves with our content to serve both of those constituencies. So the one thing that I really wanted to do was I want to find a way to have everybody on the same page, to increase, and I struggle to use the word quality, but the knowledge level and the buy-in level of the new members coming in. I wanted to make sure that they were more highly qualified for exactly what it is we are offering. I want to support the people who are exploring the world of online business, but the people who I wanted to get into the Grey Wave were people who were ready to actually act on that and understood all of the responsibilities that were included. So the only way that we could do that, we felt, well, we first of all explored all sorts of ways of doing it once people were in the membership area, and that was problematic. So we decided to do as much education as we could beforehand. And so that meant that we had a very heavy lift. We had to teach people exactly what an online business was. And that's not something that you're going to be able to teach them in a webinar. In an hour and a half webinar, you can open their eyes to some things, but you can't really give them the intimate knowledge of how they fit and kind of give them an idea of what business they could be building themselves, etc. So really, we had to put on a course which was, other people were charging. I look at something like Marie Forleo's B School, that's $2,500. I wanted to deliver the same value and the same level of knowledge as people were getting from that so they could understand and so that they could take advantage of the community. So we set very lofty goals as far as what we wanted to do with it. So the decision was made that we were going to undertake this educational effort. Now, how to do so? And why did we choose to do a live streaming effort the way that we did? Well, we chose to live stream because we were using a technique called a pop-up group, where we were going to create a small, intense community for a short period of time, and get people kind of all excited and working in the same direction and kind of doing a deep dive for a short period of time. And the way that I saw it, we had a couple of different options on the best platform to deliver that on. We could have used a membership platform and had people sign up and used a membership platform, even our own, for that. We could have just done it as a series of webinars, or we could do it in Facebook. Now, the Facebook idea was that there's more social and there's more opportunity for organic growth, because we were signing people right up into the live stream, right to the very end of the process. So the decision was made that we would use Facebook instead of these others because they were closed communities, and the only way that we would get new people in, that we would expose new people to the ideas, is through paid traffic and marketing, and they couldn't quickly and easily see exactly what was happening in the group and get a flavor for it. Whereas if they discovered it in Facebook, they registered for the pop-up group, they could see all of the history that was being talked about, all of the previous lessons were all there, so that anybody coming on at any point could get an appreciation for the fullness of exactly what it is we're offering. So that's why we decided to use Facebook rather than another dedicated service. But there was problems about it, which I'll talk about in a few moments when we talk about the good and the bad and the ugly of the beautiful of the entire process. But 25 days, where did that come from? Why did we decide to do 25 days? And that was, it wasn't because I've lost touch with sanity, but I knew that we had a lot of ground to cover. And when I broke everything down, I broke it down into small chunks. I wanted to have each lesson to be about 20 minutes of content because I wanted each of our live streams to be 45 minutes or less. So when I broke down the content, I just kind of figured as I laid everything out that there was about 25 different lessons that I wanted to cover, because we weren't just going to cover the technology side and the practical and the application side, but we also had to spend some time talking about the mindset of building an online business. So we settled on 5 weeks, 25 days, which I thought it was going to be a very interesting experiment to see what sort of retention we would have getting people on board. So that's why the decision was made to do it that way. Now, what technology did we decide to use for it? Well, we put in place, because we were just going to be streaming live to Facebook, we wanted to have a live streaming tool that would allow us to insert pre-recorded video, because I wanted to pre-record all of my content, and I used Camtasia to pre-record all of the demos. So just exactly like what I'm doing right now. The lessons were created exactly the same as these pre-records in Webinar Wednesday, so we used that technology. We used Evernote to deliver the main content. We used our CRM, which is ActiveCampaign, to tag everybody in, to send out emails and reminders. Because we were live streaming and not using a webinar tool, we had to send them reminders of each of the day's lessons, and more kind of on the challenges of using Facebook for that sort of thing in a few moments. And we also used StreamYard, which was the tool that we chose to use for all of our streaming services. And so StreamYard is we've used other services in the past, and we've had a relationship with Restream, which does the same thing. But we found StreamYard to be a little more reliable, and indeed, actually, a little more reliable. It was bulletproof through the entire process. So we did 25 live streams over 5 weeks, and every one of them came off without a hitch. obviously the odd person in Facebook was having trouble with the connection and things like that, this because streaming services, there's going to be sometimes that audio is not working properly on somebody's individual system or not. But for us, the actual delivery, it was 100% as far as the delivery went through the entire process. So let me just walk you through quickly how we went about creating each week's or each day's new lesson. And we couldn't create these all in advance. I could do the pre-records on all of the videos in advance, but actually setting up each of them, we kind of set them up kind of each day as we completed the previous days. And you'd go and you'd create a new broadcast here inside of StreamYard. And StreamYard allows us to stream to multiple different social platforms. So in our case, we were streaming to just the 25-day Building a Business Bootcamp. I would put in the title, add the description, and then I would schedule it for later for broadcast, and I would actually put in the programming here as far as what exact time we were going to be creating we were going to be delivering, and then I'd create the broadcast, and then I could copy the URL of the Facebook page. It would create the new listing in Facebook, and those of you that participated would have, when I was creating this, would have gotten a notification: DottoTech is going live at such and such a time. And so that was the process, and it was pretty straightforward. Some of the other nice things about StreamYard is once we've gone through the recording, and it's got once we recorded each one, is it saved each of the lessons here in the video section here. So we actually, which comes in very useful for us, when we were finished, we had choices of how we were going to use the videos. So we wanted to create an archive of the different videos. Now, we could have used the Facebook videos and downloaded them and then kind of removed them from Facebook, or we could just go in here because the StreamYard recorded each and every one of the videos. We could just download them from here. So this ended up being really useful. So there's a library of nearly a month of solid live streams that were being delivered each and every day. So we can go back and we can see any of them if we choose to. So StreamYard, so the technology ended up working really, really well. We delivered the notes in Evernote, which is the same way that we deliver our notes in Webinar Wednesday. So we took a lot of what we'd learned delivering these weekly webinars and applied it into the live streams. So that was kind of the why we did it, and the reasons behind the marketing of it, and why we chose live stream and why we chose Facebook for it, and why it ended up being 25 days, and a little bit about how we constructed each live stream. So what were the lessons, though, that we learned from it? What did we come away with? And to be perfectly honest, most of the lessons that we learned were marketing related as opposed to technology related. The live streaming was pretty straightforward and simple. It worked really well, and there were no unpleasant surprises. The only real surprise, or the only really kind of unpleasant aspect, technology-wise, is due to Facebook's restrictions on groups versus pages. We weren't able to inside of StreamYard. I wasn't able to actually chat actively with people who were in the room with us or joined in the live stream. So April had to launch Facebook on her computer, and she had kind of two computers going. One of them she could deal with chat because she had to be in the Facebook chat, and the other one she was in the room with me doing delivering the content. So that was a little bit cumbersome, and that's not always the case. Facebook has different rules for pages versus groups, and so we weren't able to chat, but in other instances you will be able to. So that's just almost the luck of the draw as far as the type of pop-up group that you set up. So let's take you through the results. And the first of all, the good. The engagement that we got from the community was just fantastic. I was absolutely thrilled with the interaction and the flow of content and how we were able to deliver the content. I felt 20-minute chunks was more than enough content. People seemed to they didn't seem to get bored. They wanted more, so I think it was a good time to cut off each day. It was certainly fairly doable as far as the amount of work it took me to create each one. Creating 20-minute tutorials is a lot easier than creating 1 or 2 hours. But to give you an idea of how much time we spent, there was a total of 19 hours of content that we delivered over the 25 days, and 7 hours of that I pre-recorded. It was content that I pre-recorded. So there was a real heavy lift as far as the amount of effort that went into it. So the good was how good the engagement was. The bad was all related to Facebook. the negatives completely come down to Facebook. Is first of all, Facebook, it can be confusing for people to find the event that they've signed up for, and in dealing with their different permissions and the different limitations. So that's the biggest challenge that we had, was people got frustrated, and they had trouble separating us occasionally from Facebook, and they got kind of a few people got a little salty with the fact that we'd chosen Facebook. A, they didn't like Facebook to begin with. B, they know I don't like Facebook, so they say, "Why the heck are you making us go into Facebook, Steve?" But I still maintain that was the best platform for us to deliver it in. But it was that caused us, the only concerns that we had from it was Facebook concerns. To share the numbers with you, we had about 11, I think we ended up with almost 1,400 people in the group at the very end, but about 11 to 1,200 people were what I kind of classify as people that kind of were really well exposed to everything. In each day's live stream, we had 80 to 110 people. I think the maximum we had was about 130 or 140, and the minimum we had was 80. I think that was the minimum. And it was consistent each day. I thought there would be a steady decline and drop off over the 5 weeks. And I was quite concerned that at the end we would be I would be doing all this work and delivering content to 25 or 30 people live. But we did maintain I think a fairly decent number of people. Now, I had no idea how many of those people would actually convert into sales, so there was a lot of concern as far as the marketing and in the business side. But I was very happy with that level of engagement, that number of people. They started to recognize each other. It did all of the community building things we wanted, having that quorum. And we had about the same number of people who were watching the replays. So we probably had 160 to 200 people engaged almost through the entire piece, which I think I think it speaks really well to the format that we chose, and it also speaks well, of course, of the content that we were sharing. We were giving away what I considered to be our best stuff, so the content was terrific, and that shows because on our CRM we had an incredibly low unsubscribe rate, even though over 25 days we were sending more than one email a day on average to all of these people, and they weren't unsubscribing. They were staying with us, so that was terrific. I've already talked to you a little bit about the effort. I did 25 different resource notes of the same sort that you see here on Webinar Wednesday. Some of them were quite long and took me a long time to create. 7 hours of pre-recorded instruction, about just under 20 hours of live content. Actually, it was more because we did a few bonus sections of content. So when you look at kind of sprints and rests as far as kind of the business models, this was one heck of a long sprint. This was a long sprint that we were all pretty punch drunk by the end of it. So I think probably it's too much. Next time I look at it, I'm going to look at tightening things up, but more on that in a moment. But the results. At the end of the day, I'm thrilled with the results. We had 75 new members sign up for our business, for our membership, which was, I had an over under of 50 as far as my target went. And if I'd been under 50, I would have been disappointed with the amount of effort that I put in. But over 50 was terrific. I think that one of the biggest pluses was, I think around 20 of those people were what we would call cold traffic that didn't know about DottoTech before, but this was the first time that they were introduced to us because they came to us through Facebook ads, and that many people went through and converted into actually purchasing, and that we were able to build enough trust and enough enough equity with those people was a really good sign. This model of seeing people day after day and constantly being delivered content and having your needs addressed and your questions answered, that is a tremendous trust building experience. So it worked well from that perspective. We also sold 10 copies of the boot camp itself. What we did is, in the end, we realized we've got this course that we could we packaged it up, put it in Thinkific. We were putting it into Thinkific anyways for our members to have access to all of the content once the boot camp was over. So we just put out a special offer. It turned out it was around Black Friday, so we put out an offer, and we had, I think, 10 people purchase. So that was great as well. And I think we charged $300 for it. So that was terrific. The other result is that the training mission was accomplished. The thing that I feel best about from the effort, the sales of the numbers and the engagement was all good. But the 75 new people that we brought in are what I would call very qualified to be part of the community. They have gone through each step of understanding what an online business is. So there's far less questions that they have coming in, and they're ready to really start to apply themselves in the community. So the mission, our goal of bringing new people in, making money, A, but B, making sure it was the right people, that the people were qualified and they should be joining the community, was absolutely met through this effort. Now, we could have approached this in a lot of different ways. Doing a 25-day live stream like this could have been a product that we charged for. As I say, I think I probably cover the same content that Marie Forleo covers in her B school, and we gave it away for free, and Marie charges $2,500, and she has thousands of people sign up several times a year to take that course. But it accomplished our goals. It accomplished our objectives. And it's also an asset, a complete asset that I now have that I can tweak. I can continue to deliver it just the way it is, or we can modify it for next time. So changes that I would do next time I did this, if I was, and first of all, would I do a live event like this again for live streaming? Absolutely. I'm excited to do it again. I believe that because of things like imposter syndrome, everybody would naturally, we over deliver when we deliver something like this. And it doesn't have to be 25 days. I can accomplish the same objectives in 15 or 20 days, I am sure, of kind of boiling down and reducing the content to its highest value and making sure we keep people on track. So there was a little bit of fluff that I could definitely carve out. So I would make it tighter next time. I think it's also a really heavy investment on behalf of the audience. So they found it also to be a bit of a heavy lift, but I would absolutely do it again. As far as the results of doing a 25-day live streaming test, it was pretty much check marks right down the board, with the knowledge that Facebook sucks always. So Facebook was going to be a problem, but technology wise, content wise, engagement wise, trust building wise, and actually revenue numbers wise, it was a check mark right down the line. So let's get into the Q&A. Abrupt ending to the video. Not much warning as it was going to end. Was there April? April's probably scrambling like mad now, trying to get back on stage. So that was it. So that was the review. It was overall we were pretty. I guess we're pretty proud of what we accomplished. It was a really good effort, and certainly one worth reinvesting in as we move along. So we've got lots of questions, April. Lots of
we do.
Yeah.
We do. All right. So let's start. I'm going to go from the bottom up. So Tom asked, here's a question. From your live stream daily world, did you have techie issues like the one Steve's having? Or does having a cohort like this make a difference? People work out their tech and then works for the course.
You're always going to, when I said in the video, we had issues because it's live streaming, and we are we are at the mercy of the internet gods and gremlins. So it was a more systemic issue, was people navigating within Facebook and people getting lost in the frustration that it entailed. And some of that is always going to rub off on the hosts, on the people creating the content. So some people would get, as I say, a little bit salty with us when they were having troubles finding stuff on Facebook, and there's nothing that we could do about that. So that's number one. Number two is, as far as the technical issues goes, the odd person had some streaming issues. From our perspective, as far as the performance of the different technology pieces for us, the scheduling of the Facebook Lives, the integration with our CRM, the actual broadcast live with April joining me in the room, and the actual broadcasting out, those all work flawlessly. Out of, I guess, if we have 80 people, let's say we have an average of 100 people per day times 250 times 25 days, that's 2,500 connections, opportunities for something to go wrong as far as the stream itself goes. And some people did have some issues. They had audio issues, just like we are having today. Some audio issues. The odd person had video issue. The odd person would be watching it on their phone, and they aren't used to watching stuff on their phone, and they're used to it on their notebook. So there were some technical issues like that. But you can't. One of the things about being a live streamer, or now being like doing anything live, is you have to develop a little bit of a thick skin and recognize that one of the prices we pay for this increased convenience of an opportunity that live streaming gives us is we're always going to get bruised up a little bit if the technology doesn't work, and it's always going to rub off a little bit on us. So I think that's just the nature of that beast.
At one time you showed Ecamm. Did you consider using it for this process?
Yeah, Ecamm would have been an okay choice if we were going to have a little bit more elaborate presentations. But I wasn't the sophistication that I needed as far as the in studio, like in the broadcast studio, as far as how much I was going to share, didn't necessitate Ecamm. We only had April and I on. We didn't have any other guests. Well, once we had one guest on. We weren't using a lot of graphic overlays as far as the production values, because Ecamm, if I didn't pre-record my segments, the training pieces, the way the technique that we use of having the pre-recorded tutorial, I definitely would use Ecamm, because we'd want to have a lot more control over the way graphics are inserted, etc. But for the main training component, it's all packaged up as a video. So I've done all the camera moves, I've done all the labeling, I've done everything I need to do in advance. So I don't need to use a tool like Ecamm because I pre-produced it. So no, I didn't use Ecamm. It's due to the technique and the style that we present with.
Does that mean you can go back and view the videos, the 25 videos?
Yeah, well, so they were available for people to view for 10 days after the actual boot camp ended, while we were in a sales cycle, while we were doing kind of closing sales and trying to get people in. So now it's been archived on Facebook. You can't get into it on Facebook anymore. Any of the people who joined us in the Gray Wave, the entire boot camp is inside of the Gray Wave as training modules, because it's all good, solid training. And at the very end, we did a Black Friday sale where people could buy access to the course content for $300, and we offered that, and we might offer that again, kind of on a special basis. But that's but for most of us right now, unless you're a member of the Gray Wave, it's not available unless you happen to jump on that purchase during the Black Friday kind of sale period.
I think also part of his question, you were talking about StreamYard. So in StreamYard records the video on their end for you to download.
Well, that's back end for us. Yeah. So we can down. So the nice thing for us is I didn't have to do anything special to record it, so that I could repurpose that content. So all of those videos are still sitting in StreamYard if we wanted to upload them to another service or something.
Mike's saying, you made me realize that my podcast is presently a group. Should I pivot it towards a page?
What a good question, Mike. And I don't think I'm the right person to answer that, but maybe April can talk about it a little more. I suspect what's happening, Mike, is you are recording your podcast live. You're trying to get people to join you live while you're recording it, and then you're taking that and using it as the podcast, which I think is a great way to add energy and to add value to a podcast. So if you are in a group, it means that you in your podcasting software can't chat with the members of the group. You have to have Facebook running in a separate instance so that you can see what's happening in the chat and you can chat back. You can see the chat happening, typically speaking, with your tool, but you cannot engage with them. So I believe that that's important to do. So unless you have somebody like an April, a producer that's there engaging with your audience, it might be worth pivoting towards a page. I don't know what price you pay as far as reach and those sorts of things. April, do you have something you can weigh in with that?
Well, I mean, I do think it depends on the size of the group. So if your group is small, I definitely would look towards your business page, because your business page is public. Plus, it allows you to do ads from there. Like if you wanted to promote that content to get a farther reach, I would personally do it on your business page and then share it into your group. So you have two ways of you're reaching, not only you're increasing the reach with video on your Facebook business page, but you're also touching your group. That being said, you'll see, and if you're using StreamYard, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And when you're using StreamYard, you'll see people that are commenting, and you'll see their names that are on your business page and in your group, unless they allow you to
give permission to StreamYard.
Give permission, you'll see that it's just going to say Facebook user. But I would definitely encourage you to do it from your business page. I think there's just much more opportunity to reach a larger audience over time.
Good.
All right. How long does the average Patreon member stay a member? It's a great question.
Over a year. We have a fairly low churn rate. We have about 700 members right now, somewhere around 700 members, and each month we drop by 20 or so, and then we grow by 20 or 30. So yeah, it's over a year. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Peter's asking, what would you do differently? Shorter duration? What about the rigor of the content?
So I addressed most of that at the end of the video. I do think that not shorter duration of each lesson, but a shorter overall duration of the course itself, of the boot camp. The other thing I would do is we did a tech with programmatically within the boot camp. We had everybody go through a process of creating a mind map, which later became the roadmap for their business. And I would do a tutorial before we started so people understood that technology more intimately, because some people were struggling with figuring out how to do a mind map while they were struggling with the content, while they were working on the content side. So I'd want to remove the technology side so that they were comfortable with the tool before we started. So I think some sort of either in the first lesson or in advance, having a quick tutorial where people who are planning on signing up can get a training on how to use the mind mapping tool, that would be one. The other changes that we might do, I can't say right now because we haven't yet sent out our debriefing questionnaire to the community. So everything that I'm giving as far as the response from the community is either the fact that people purchase from us. I did speak to, I'm going to say 40 or 45 members. We gave one-on-one consultations, half-hour consultations, and I did a lot of those. And I got a lot of iterative feedback there. But we haven't sent out an official questionnaire, which April's working on right now. So there might be some other changes that we do as far as that goes. But the main thing is I would try and tighten it up, and I would try and prepare people a little bit better for using the mind map.
I'm wondering what the conversion rate was to your Gray Wave group from the 25-day boot camp.
So overall, if you look at the gross numbers of the group, the conversion rate is probably around 0.75%. But of the people that are actively engaged, I believe our conversion rate was over 25%. We had, on average, we had 80 to 140 people attend each session live. And I believe about the same number of people watched the replays consistently. So we had maybe 200 people actively engaged through the entire thing, and we were getting constant feedback from them, and they were posting in the Facebook group. So we had a couple of hundred people that were definitely taking advantage of the tutorials and the training. 75 converted. So and if you add the 10 more, 85 with people that bought the boot camp as well. So we're closing in on, we're 45% was our close rate, and of that, about 20 of them were totally cold traffic. They didn't come from our existing list, but they came in from Facebook ads, a campaign that we ran to drive people to the boot camp, which is the thing that excites me the most, because that means that I can spend a lot more money next time on cold traffic with the confidence that it's going to generate revenue in the backside.
Which kind of opens up two other questions that are in the chat here. So how many are in the mastermind?
In the mastermind?
Yeah.
The mastermind is limited at 8. I think we'll be at 8. Yeah. And so there's that too. Yeah. But some of those were existing members, so we won't count that. Yeah.
And then what was the percentage between like the 2 tiers of membership? Because that was the first time we offered
2 tiers membership. So we offered a new tier of membership, which was self-paced at $50 a month, and the full membership at $100 a month. And we had, of the 75, 25 were full members and 50 were self-paced. But I fully anticipate a substantial percentage of the self-paced will upgrade when they start to recognize how much value they're getting out of the community.
Yeah, I thought it was like a 40-60.
It was 75-25. It was 25-50. There's 25 full, 50. Yeah.
Got it.
It was a very even number.
Why are we using Demio instead of StreamYard now?
Well, StreamYard is Demio is a webinar tool, and which is far more appropriate for doing webinars. I mean, the boot camp was training, and so
well, I can tell you what the difference was, because we kept everything in one place.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing about us using StreamYard and going live on Facebook in the group, because all the materials, everything was in one place, and we didn't have to worry about membership access. We didn't have to worry about a lot of other administrative stuff outside of the Facebook group.
And Demio, and this webinar Wednesday, if we're talking business wise, and we'll just be, kind of everybody's in our camp at this point. Webinar Wednesdays are my biggest list builder. This is how we generate new email addresses and build trust with our community so that we can later on sell something to you down the road. Ultimately, I mean, if we're looking totally just pragmatically at what this Webinar Wednesday is all about, it's all about generating relationships with our community that we can then, so that's going to be jointly beneficial. I can only have that relationship with you if I have your email address, and so that I can talk to you at some point in the future. And if I was live streaming it, I wouldn't have your email address. We MacGyvered our own system. Earlier this year, we tried to deliver these webinars via live stream, thinking that the social reach and the social share on Facebook and YouTube Live would be worth the extra effort. And it was too much trouble. And we couldn't communicate. We didn't have as good an engagement because people were coming in from all of these different resources. Whereas everybody here in the chat, this is a very intimate group. You can tell the intimate nature of the feel of the happening inside this kind of closed environment within Demio. So Demio works better for this particular format when I'm building the list. The reason that we wanted to be in Facebook primarily for the boot camp was we wanted the social conversations that happened outside of the actual delivery of the 45 minutes of content. People posting their dreams and objectives, people posting their discoveries, asking questions. Those conversations continued 24/7 for 25 days, or for 2.5, or actually for 5 weeks. That was what we did it in Facebook, was we wanted that social interaction outside of the actual delivery of the content. The delivery of the content was only a percentage of what we were trying to accomplish with the pop-up group and with the boot camp.
Well, the other thing too is it was easy for people to share, right? So they could share.
Yeah, well, that's it. That was all about conversation.
Yeah, share with their friends. Let's see. So if you were able to provide live online courses, trainings, do you prefer Demio versus StreamYard or perhaps Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, we use all three of those tools.
all three. So Zoom is the absolute best tool, as far as I'm concerned, for an intimate small group training. We'll be running our mastermind in Zooms and a lot of our small group trainings where you want to be able to have people come on camera with you and have conversations. Demio is a terrific webinar tool, as are other good webinar tools, where you need to register people, capture their email address, integrate it with your CRM, and then deliver packaged content like this with having the really controlled environment of the chat. Zoom chat, if you're in a Zoom call, the chat is, first of all, hard to find. It's nowhere near as engaging. So it's more when you're actually on video and you're talking that Zoom kind of works as far as dialogue's concerned. We can have the dialogue with the whole community here inside of Demio. So I really like Demio for that. Live streaming is when you're looking for that extra social interaction and when you're looking for people to continue to engage when you aren't live. If you used any other platform other than Facebook for a program like the boot camp, it would not have succeeded as well because people engage with what's in front of them. If people have to go into another platform in order to post a comment, they won't do it, but they're already in Facebook. Typically speaking, most of you don't even close Facebook down all day long. It's running in a tab somewhere in your browser. So getting into the group and popping into the group for quick conversation is simple. It's very natural. Some people say it's addictive, but it's there. So each one has its own place.
Okay, so let's see, where are we on our questions here? Would you not get the same level of engagement via YouTube compared to Facebook?
No, for the reasons I just said. People won't be engaged outside of the actual live stream in YouTube. Even though we have a much larger audience in YouTube, it's not a social platform where people sit there and talk to each other and then post ideas and questions and comments. They'll do it during the duration of the video, maybe leave one post afterwards, but they don't live in the way that they browse through Facebook.
What would you choose in place of Facebook for the future?
It's going to be Facebook again.
Which he goes kicking and screaming, friends. He really does.
I take no pleasure in that answer. Trust me. We've looked at Mighty Networks. I've looked at using other. No, it's got to be Facebook.
And the other thing too was during the 25 days, Facebook groups has done updates and changes. So that was a challenge in the middle of the boot camp. Things changed. Things weren't where they used to be. Like if you describe something, and even now, like in our gray zone group, I know that some members were asking, well, why did you go from public to private. I didn't. I changed it to private, but Facebook did it because they did an update. So what was the return on the bulk Friday sale?
10 sales. And
12.
and April's quite critical of my technique on this because we only offered it to people who were on our small mail list, small mail list, only people who had registered for the boot camp. We didn't offer it to our larger list. So we only offered it to about 12 or 1,300 people as opposed to 26,000, which is our full mail list. We probably would have had a lot more engagement had we offered it to the full list. But so it was 10.
Oh, which I was happy 12. With. 12.
Could have been better.
Yeah. Wouldn't Slack work for those communications and sharing?
Slack could work for those conversations, but first of all, the baby boomers who we're targeting aren't that versed in all technologies, and not everybody has Slack. Now, while not everybody has Facebook, the vast majority have Facebook, whereas it's going to be a minority that use Slack. And it would be, so the amount of training that we'd have to do to bring people into Slack would have been an extra responsibility. And they would only be coming into Slack if they weren't already there for our boot camp. So Slack is a much more appealing option in the second phase when people are already inside. Like we could consider starting a Slack group instead of a Facebook group. Once you're inside the Grey Wave community, that would be a viable conversation to have, but not for this marketing purpose.
So Greg's asking, you can answer this. Hold on. The Facebook group is archived, friends, so you actually can't join it anymore unless you are a member of the group. You can see the comments. Greg, I joined Grey Wave as self-directed due to scheduling issues. Thought we were supposed to have access to the Slack channel, but never received an invite.
No, we don't have a Slack channel for the Grey Wave. Never have. The Slack channel, we do have Slack channel access for people who are in the mastermind, which is a different tier, but we've never done it for the main group. It's something that we might consider in the future, but you should have been invited into the Facebook group. That's where all the conversations currently happen.
Look at Judy promoting your YouTube video on Slack there.
There we go. Thank you.
All right. Have you looked at Discord? It seems quite engaging.
Exact same issue as with Slack. Discord is terrific. It has been really embraced by the gaming community. Discord, for those of you that don't know, is a conversation platform, which has been very popular with the Twitch community for having conversations while people are gaming and that sort of stuff. And it would be great, but again, the technical clarity of our community is quite varied. And I would dare say that 90% of the people in our community have never heard of Discord, much less are versed in it.
Did you do a how-to or overview to set up the Facebook group and background tech and logistics you do to set up one of those mini pop-ups?
We do have inside of the community, we have done Facebook groups, and yep. April has done that, and that is content that we'll go over again. It's constantly changing, so the content that we delivered last time might be modified because of what happened this time, but that's part of the ongoing content that we deliver inside of the Grey Wave community.
All right. Not me. I'm not a Facebook fan. I'm willing to learn because potential clients are there. I'm just looking at, so Larry is saying, one of the problems I have in trying live engagement for an online business is camera stage fright. Any suggestion on getting past that heavy lift? Practice. So one of the things that, can I just offer something? So one of the things that I've done with people, and I did it early on when I wanted to go live and test the platforms, was I created a Facebook group just for myself. And I have like a few people in it. And then I practice going live in the group. So if you're talking about like live on Facebook and it's really the same thing if you went live on YouTube, but I attached StreamYard to it, the free version, and I practice live that way so that I could see it. And always remember though, Larry, you're your worst critic, right? So I'd encourage you to bring somebody, but that's a great way to get past stage fright. What about you? Do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of friends of ours teach help people overcome those issues. Ian Anderson Gray has a terrific course called Confidence Live, I think is his.
Yeah,
where he walks people through it. So I would encourage you. You know, I'm a terrible person to do this because it's second nature to me. So you know, it's like, so it's hard for me to get into your shoes, although I try. So Ian had to go through that, as he wasn't quite as gregarious as myself or outgoing, and he has come up with techniques, and I think he speaks a lot more to that. Also, Molly, is it Molly?
Molly Pittman.
No, we've lost her name. Another one of our friends. I'll find the name. I'll try and put it in the shared note. But Ian Anderson Gray would be the first place I look for to help overcome that. We talk a little bit about it. The stuff that we talk about imposter syndrome, about recognizing your value, which we talk about a lot within our community, I think will help. But a lot of people are just it's a hard thing for a lot of people just to get in front of the camera. And so I'll leave it the advice that April said and encourage you to tie in with friends of ours like Ian. Yeah.
And somebody mentioned Zoom. You could always do a Zoom, but what I like about the group thing is that you are testing the tools and nobody's seeing it. And
here's one thing that I'll say is we are far harder on ourselves than we are on others. And if you go live and you make a little mistake, you think the world is laughing at you, or that you've totally screwed up and that you look the fool. And we all screw up. Always on air, on camera. We make so many mistakes. It's ridiculous. But if it doesn't bother us, it never bothers you. And if I make a mistake right now, if I say something wrong, I say wrong words all the time. I'm 62 years old. My brain doesn't work nearly as well as it once did. And sometimes it substitutes words that are completely wrong. And they're in the pre-record. And I hear them go and I go, oh my God, everybody's laughing at me. But nobody's laughing at me, because we all make mistakes. And if it doesn't, and we are empathetic rather than judgmental. So if you are on camera and you are self-conscious, then people are going to feel uneasy, not because they're uneasy with you, they're uneasy with you being uneasy with the situation. Does that make sense? They're empathetic as opposed to judgmental. Plus, so if you can believe that most people are like you and they aren't going to be judging, because you're not judging right now, and you can trust your audience, then I think that will help. And for the most part, I mean, we get some dicks. Why do they call them people that like that? We get some people that are kind of.
That was a big word for Webinar Wednesday, Steve.
Yeah, very colorful. But you get the odd person that's going to be critical. But it's but you just got to roll past that. Yeah.
Well, and I think just like people are saying in the chat, it's about being human, right? Because when you're, you just have to take a deep breath and, you're human, and that's what people that's what people like about you. And Larry, you have these amazing photos and things to share about your travel. So I can only imagine once somebody asks one question or comments, you're going to feel so much more at ease because you're talking your lingo, you're talking what you're passionate about.
Poor Barb has been dumped time after time after time. Her connection. Are you on a tablet, Barb? I'm wondering if that might be the case. Okay.
If you want it perfect, buy the album. Okay. I did drop Ian's site in there, friends. So
thank you. That's good stuff.
I think we are we're up to date with all of our questions here.
Okay, so let me fill you guys in on what's happening next week. Next week, I'm being abandoned by April. It's going to be a solo Steve event.
It is.
Next week's Webinar Wednesday is going to be a little bit different. And next week, I'm going to be asking you to think about your biggest productivity fails from this last year. Things that you used to come easy that don't come easy anymore, new problems, new things that get in your way of productivity. With the growth with the amount of change that we've experienced through the pandemic and through more and more virtual work and all of these, and just the growth of technology in general, we've got all sorts of new traps that are impacting our productivity. And I've got a series that I recognize in myself. April recognizes in herself, but you've all got them too. And we want to craft next year's series on Webinar Wednesday to make sure that we deliver as much value as possible. So rather than us deciding exactly which of the productivity stories are most relevant, I'm wondering if you guys can help. And so we're going to be asking you what your biggest productivity sinkholes are, and it's through and that will inform us and help us make better decisions as far as what we're going to be delivering as far as our content on Webinar Wednesday moving ahead into next year. We've done every year on Webinar Wednesday, we've always had a nice mix of content creation, mainly productivity, and a small amount of online marketing. Webinars like this one today, where we did a lot on online marketing, are going to become less in the new year. We're going to be doing a lot more content creation and a lot more on the productivity space, because the online marketing we're taking care of now through Foundational Fridays, so I want to make sure that we define what's happening on Webinar Wednesday a little bit more. And whenever we do any productivity webinars, our audience is around twice the size of when we do any online marketing content. So although you folks are all interested in the online marketing side, the great majority of people really appreciate the productivity stuff a little bit more. So that will be I'll ask you guys to work with me next week on that as we work our way through it. There's going to be a gazillion polls that I'm going to have pre-programmed in. So
now,
have them out.
Can you save those? Like, I'm worried about you in the chat.
Excuse me. Just a minute.
Be kind to him, friends. I know you will be. You're always great to him. How are you going to manage the chat? It's going to be like this crazy chat.
I'll figure it out.
So I'm moving. So my daughter, I have to help move. My husband's going to California to visit my son, and I have to move my daughter out of her dorm. So, yes. So that's what I'm doing. So
sounds like an excuse to me.
Well, maybe I might have to catch a Christmas dinner, while I'm there in New York.
But I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fine.
It will be fine.
It'll be good. No,
I might have to
Demio saves all the poll results so I can look at them afterwards. Yeah, it'll be good. All right. Perfect. Let's call it a day. I've got coughing. I think I got a tiny bit of a cold. My wife has been home for 2 weeks with a cold, and I haven't really caught it. So I think I just have a little bit. That's where that cough came from. But with that, folks, have a great week. Thank you, April. We'll see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? No, this is your last one before the new year. This is it. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
No.
I think so.
Don't even say that.
This is the last one because next week is the 15th, right? Yeah. And then it's Christmas. And then we're not back on until January 5th. I think is our next webinar Wednesday.
Oh, my friends, I'm going to miss you. Yes, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. I might have to, but see, Demio doesn't work on my phone. Otherwise, I'd jump in and wish you all Merry Christmas. Now you won't see my tree.
I will see you all next week. April, we'll see you next year. Till then.
Bye, guys.
Have fun storming the castle.